It sounded like the job offer of a lifetime, right? A year in a creepy old mansion, $1 million at the end. The catch, a 5-day trial before signing a 1-year contract. Too good to be true, right? I had my doubts. My employer, Jeff, was a mystery, just a name in an IRC chat room. A stranger who offered a huge upfront payment. I was in desperate need of cash to pay off my student loans, so I took the bait. But when he started dropping cryptic instructions about the tenants and locked doors, I knew something was off. This wasn't just a house-sitting job. Your support helps us keep creating more creepy content for you, so hit like and subscribe to stay updated. And lock in. It sounds like the job offer of a lifetime, right? House at a creepy old mansion for a year. Become a millionaire by the time it's all over. But I knew things were never going to be as simple as they seemed. They never are when that much money is involved. My employer, Jeff, a guy I've only contacted via an IRC chat room, offered me a 5-day trial period before signing me up for a 1-year contract. That seemed like a reasonable request, and I'd be able to pay off the rest of my student loans with the money from that trial week alone. I would have thought it was a joke until he sent me a $1,000 payment up front and promised to send the rest later. I knew I was getting into something shady. I expected to be house-sitting a house full of stolen goods, or worse. Jeff deflected all of my questions about the place, and when I felt like I was starting to piss him off, I knew to shut up. The last thing I wanted was for him to withdraw the job offer and give it to some other broke student. I packed light, just the essentials, a few extra shirts, and a sense of caution I'd learned to trust. You never know what you'll run into in a place like this, but I had a feeling a shirt or two from my collection might come in handy. After all, the right shirt can say a lot about who you are. It can be the difference between blending in and standing out, between feeling prepared and feeling vulnerable. And with everything I was about to face, I wasn't about to leave anything to chance. Check out our t-shirts, link in the description. Monday, 3:20 a.m. I made my way to the mansion in the early hours of Monday morning to begin the trial. It was a misty night. I had no problem being there at this hour. I've always been a night owl. Still, I was 20 minutes late. Jeff waited on the street by the mansion gates to greet me. He kept his voice low, but revealed a strong Australian accent. "You made it. About bloody time." I shook his hand and introduced myself, checking the place out at the same time. It was in a state of utter disrepair. The building had been neglected to a shocking degree, as if it had been left alone for 100 years. Otherwise, it looked like your stereotypical mansion with long white pillars by the entrance and huge swathes of grass fields surrounding it. Jeff seemed to be in a hurry. "Now, I've done all your chores tonight, so just make your way to the basement and get settled in." The basement? Jeff pulled out a sheet of paper. "Right. I've got a full list of rules here, but for tonight you just need to keep quiet and make your way into the basement. Wouldn't want to wake the tenants. Always lock the basement door behind you. There's other people staying here? Ghosts, mate." I feigned a smile, thinking it was a bad joke or that Jeff was a lunatic. Nevertheless, I was determined to play along. The money was good. Jeff helped me get my bags out of my car, insisting I park it outside of the estate on the street. He handed me a key and a folded up piece of paper in a plastic sleeve. "I've left the front door unlocked for you to get in. Keep it unlocked, all right? Remember, just quietly make your way to the basement and stay there. Lock the door." Jeff unlocked the gates to the estate and I began walking up to the mansion. The noise of Jeff locking up the gate with multiple chains and padlocks made me take one last look back at him, to which he just gave me a thumbs up. The mansion was a wreck. There wasn't even a doorknob to turn to enter the place. It had fallen off long ago. The place looked like it had been ransacked long ago. I moved through the entrance hallway to see graffiti covered the walls, and syringes were littered around the floors. Some of the more untouched rooms I passed were caked in dust. Finally, I reached what had to be the door to the basement. It led me down some stairs. The basement actually seemed somewhat cozy, like someone had actually been living here. A decent bed, a TV, and one of those old antique phones with a rotary dial that take ages to call a number with. There was even an old PlayStation 1 console and a few games. I pulled out Jeff's list of rules, unfolding it. He had crudely written them down with a blue pen. "Stay in the basement and keep the door locked. Only leave the basement from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Each night, turn all the lights off. Unlock all the entrance doors. Turn off the living room TV if it's on. Otherwise, turn it on. If you see anyone else in the mansion, hide. Never talk to them. Never let them find you. Try to keep the lights off and keep the volume down. You don't want to attract any attention. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. Make friends with the dog. Give it a treat each time you see him. Answer the basement phone when it rings, but never say anything. Hang up if the call goes on longer than a minute. Never leave the house. The exceptions being Friday, 3 a.m. I'll be waiting for you by the gates." I checked my phone, 3:45 a.m. I went up the stairs to the basement door, then closed and locked it. Heading back down the stairs, I resolved to play some PlayStation games, assuming that Jeff left them behind to keep me from losing my mind to boredom. Monday 7:11 a.m. I was beginning to unwind and unpack my bags when I heard the faintest noises come from above me. They sounded like muffled talking, and I couldn't make out what they were saying. I wondered if what I was doing was even legal. Do these people know Jeff? Is Jeff a squatter and I just took his place so that I can take the blame when these people inevitably come down to the basement? I wondered who they were, the original owners of the house. Addicts? The police? I thought it would be best just to keep quiet and get some rest. I had brought some earplugs for just such an occasion. I checked my phone as I lay down in bed. No service and no Wi-Fi. Monday 5:13 p.m. I awoke to a large banging against the basement door. Someone was knocking on it, with a closed fist or a hammer, I don't know. I kept quiet until it passed. I felt peckish but hadn't packed any food with me. I reread the list a few times over, trying not to forget anything. I thought about how I hadn't seen a dog, and wondered what the hell the fridge was meant to be, because it certainly wasn't in the basement. I kept on playing on the PlayStation for a few hours to distract myself from my hunger and the muffled voices upstairs, deciding to wait until 1 a.m. to search the house for food. Tuesday 1 a.m. I stared at my phone for a few minutes until it was finally 1 a.m. The voices stopped long ago. I guess they left or fell asleep. I half expected to see someone waiting for me as I unlocked the basement door. I was damn creaky as I slowly pushed the door open. I was very much aware that Jeff knew there would be other people here, and for whatever reason he wanted me to do my chores without ever alerting my presence to them. I had so many questions, but I still had student loans to pay off. Remember? I could hardly believe what I saw. The house that was last night in such a terrible state was fully repaired and looked amazing, even in the darkness. I had to pinch my arm to convince myself I wasn't dreaming. I actually went back into the basement, carefully remembering to lock the door, and spent a while letting my mind race about what the fuck was going on. Tuesday 1:20 a.m. I finally mustered the courage to unlock the basement door a second time and open the door. The mansion was still in amazing condition. It looked very lived in. I had wondered if it was time travel, a portal to another dimension, or an elaborate prank. Maybe Jeff was some kind of Hagrid and this is how he likes to introduce magic to people. I made my way through the mansion, quietly exploring it. It didn't take long for me to find the kitchen and steal some cake from the fridge, remembering Rule 5. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I also made myself a few sandwiches and brought them back into the basement for tomorrow. I'll admit, I also grabbed a sharp kitchen knife and carried it around the halls with me. Some of the lights in some rooms were on, so I turned them off. I found entrance doors, the front door, the door in the west wing, and the door in the south wing that led to a massive pool. I sort of wanted to explore the whole property and have some time outside the creepy house, but Rule 8 held me at bay. Never leave the house. I found what had to be the living room. The TV was on, but only showing static and making static noises. I turned it off. I felt something touch the back of my heels as I did this and almost yelped aloud. It was the dog, a skinny old Jack Russell Terrier, wagging its tail. Its eyes were such a dark shade of brown. In this darkness I couldn't even make eye contact with it. Its collar tag read Chester. I led Chester to the kitchen and gave him a small slice of ham from the fridge. Tuesday 3:50 a.m. By this time I had explored all the rooms that didn't have closed doors. Chester followed me the whole time, no doubt hoping for more treats. I ended up just sitting in the living room petting him for a good hour, making sure to keep track of the time. After cleaning my teeth I finally made my way to the basement door. Shit, I forgot to lock it. I didn't even close the damn door. I felt like an idiot, but in my own defense I was a little distracted by the whole entered a new dimension / discovered magic thing. I figured it wasn't a big deal as nothing had gone wrong that night. I pet Chester goodbye and went into the basement, remembering to lock the door behind me this time. I went down the stairs dreading that some horrible monster or ghost would be waiting for me at the bottom, but all was fine, thank God. I put some earplugs in and checked my phone again. Still no service, and still no damn Wi-Fi. I guess they don't have any Wi-Fi even in this new mansion. Tuesday 3 p.m. I woke up from some dumb nightmare to the antique phone ringing, the noise overpowering my earplugs. I remembered to answer the phone but say nothing. But to be honest, if I heard Jeff's voice I would have asked him what the hell this place is. I heard the voice of a middle-aged man. Hello? A long pause. Hello? Anyone there? Another long pause.
The customer you're trying to reach is not available. Please call back 19T2. The customer you're trying to reach.
I let out a sigh of relief,
Please call back.
followed by a minor metaphorical heart attack as large knocks started hammering against the basement door. Something is trying to get in. Wednesday 1 a.m. I grabbed my knife and the house key, and left the basement, remembering to lock it behind me this time. The house still looked really, really good. Many of the lights were turned on, illuminating its brilliance. Try to keep the lights off and keep the volume down. You don't want to attract any attention. I started my chores by turning off all the lights that I could. There was one room with a closed door that I could see light shining out of. I was conflicted but opted to keep the door shut. The last light switch I turned off scared the hell out of me. "Honey, is that you?" Came from a corner in the darkness. It was a man's voice, the same man from the phone. I didn't say a word, just slowly backed out of the room. A moment later, I heard the light switch turn back on, and the man left the room, turning on all light switches in his path. I didn't even bother with the rest of the jobs that night. I headed straight for the basement. I heard a window smashing on the second floor, followed by a curdling scream from a woman like someone was being... A woman screaming, pleading frantically for help. I ran for the basement, locking it behind me. Wednesday, 3:45 a.m. At this point, I was freaking out. I knew I had to do the chores. They were so damn specific I felt like I'd be killed for not following them. But those people, those ghosts, they were out there. The house had been mostly quiet for an hour, but I heard someone walking around heavily upstairs. The phone rang. It was Jeff. A drunk Jeff. "Mate, is that you?" "It's Jeff." A pause. I wanted to scream at the man, but I knew I shouldn't say anything to the phone. "Hello? Cindy, is that you? Are your parents there?" Another pause. "Look, just tell your dad I need a lift. My damn car's broken down and my shift starts in an hour. I gotta go." I sat down on the bed, defeated. I knew I was going to make it out of here alive though. Whatever weird, reality-bending shit was going on, I was going to make it. My held tightly in one hand, the key in the other. I unlocked the basement door, locked it behind me, then started turning off all the lights. Streaks of blood covered the floors, like someone had dragged a body around the house. I never followed the blood as it led into darkness. I just turned off what lights I could, turned on the living room TV, unlocked the doors, and then made it back to the basement with only seconds to spare. I locked the door behind me, obsessively turning the doorknob again and again to make sure I had definitely locked it. I didn't get any sleep that day. Thursday, 1 a.m. With what little battery my otherwise useless phone had, I woke up from an alarm I set for 1 a.m. I eventually got so tired, around midnight, that I knew I had to have a nap for the nightly chores to come. I was also starving at this point. I hadn't eaten anything since Tuesday afternoon, those sandwiches I took back with me. I did all my jobs, practically ransacked the fridge too. The blood streaks from last night were gone, and you better believe I held it tightly in my hand the whole time. My little pathetic protection against whatever otherworldly horrors were going on. A new room was open tonight, the light left on. I was shocked to see someone in the bed there. It was a girl's room, pink walls, unicorns, and princess decorations. All the stereotypes. Big letters painted onto the wall spelled Cindy. I figured this was the girl Jeff thought he was talking to last night. The slightest noise behind me and I spun around, seeing Chester looking up at me wagging his tail. I reached into my pockets, pulling out a sausage I had for just this occasion. I kneeled down and gave it to him, trying not to wake the girl. In the light, I saw Chester's true eyes for the first time. They were fully black, devoid of color. Even the sclera, the white part of an eye beyond the pupil, was fully black. "Daddy?" In a split second, I simultaneously leaped up from my knees in fright and began running, while looking back at the girl. I only saw it for a second before I was out of the room, but the girl's eyes were fully black like Chester's. Ear-piercing screams came from her room. I ran like hell down the hallway. A light came on in front of me, and I darted off to the side in another room. A man, the father I'd already heard from, came running down the hallway, past the room I was hiding in and into Cindy's. Cindy was screaming and sobbing uncontrollably. All I heard from the father were soft words of comfort. I snuck my way towards the basement, locking the basement door as always. Thursday, 6 p.m. I got some much-needed rest. Thank God for Jeff's PlayStation, because I was desperate for anything to take my mind off the situation I was in. I took a break to listen to the loud knocking on the basement door. This time I slowly crept up to the basement door and pressed my ear to the door when the knocking ended. It was the father, mumbling and grumbling about something I couldn't quite make out. "Hello?" he said through the door. I froze and my heart stood still. It was like he knew I was on the other side of the door. I didn't say a word, and a moment later I heard him walk away. Friday, 12:50 a.m. I heard footsteps above me. I had never heard footsteps this late before, so I opted to do my chores later, in case any one of those things were roaming around. Friday, 1:10 a.m. Screaming. That curling woman screaming from upstairs. This time muffled due to me being in the basement, but no less horrifying. The phone rang. I hesitated, but answered. It was the woman, pleading for her life, begging for help. She kept giving the address of the mansion. I didn't even hold the phone to my ear. I laid it down and stood in the corner of the basement with my fingers in my ears. Then after a minute came back to hang up on her. Friday, 2:40 a.m. Jeff said in his list of rules that he'd be waiting for me by the gates at 3 a.m. So I guess I could finally leave this messed up place. I didn't bother packing my bags. I didn't want anything slowing me down. I left the basement, locking it for the final time. The floors were streaked with blood again. I did my chores and didn't come across any trouble. The house was dead silent. Chester appeared, worryingly wagging his tail. I gave him a treat. It seemed to cheer him up. That dog is always hungry. You'd think nobody feeds him. I left through the entrance door. It was a misty night again. I followed the road to the gate, with Jeff waiting there for me. How'd it go? I didn't say anything to him, folding my arms both from the cold night air and extreme uncomfortableness. Jeff unlocked the gate and handed me a suitcase full of cash, $14,000. He told me. As he turned to leave, I couldn't help but ask, Jeff, what the hell is this place? Jeff paused for a moment. The house of the dead. The house of my old friend. He buried his wife and daughter here, and all their souls have haunted this place since. I don't get it. Why do you need someone to do all this stuff? The less you know, the better. Your single-year contract starts on Monday, if you'll take it. Message me over the weekend, all right? I nodded. Jeff got in his car. I asked one final question before he drove off. Jeff, did you try to call me, or was that the ghosts? Jeff just looked at me quizzically, then frowned and shook his head. No, I did my research on the place. Who the hell wouldn't? I was about to live in the damn place for a year alone, with my only company being an undead ghost dog. The father and Jeff were co-founders of a wealthy business involved in importing/exporting. I know the official story, but if I don't survive this next year of my life, I want to put my suspicions out there. Jeff murdered that family. He went mad because they were haunted him for it. Eventually, Jeff figured out to end the haunting from ghosts, you must haunt them first. I am a distraction. That is my purpose. Turn the lights off when they should be on. Distract the ghosts. Make them forget that they're dead and that the man who took everything from them is still out there. I should care, but the money is good. As chilling as these stories can be, there's something about the lingering tension that sticks with you long after they end. If you find yourself thinking about the intriguing moments, maybe it's time to bring a little piece of that feeling with you. Check out this collection, or you'll find something to carry the vibe with you every day. Visit my shop at the link in the description and take a look at the pieces designed to keep the mysterious energy close.